Hey guys, welcome to the channel and welcome back to another video. On this video, guys, we're going to talk straight out about landlording. We're going to talk straight out about the expensive mistakes that new landlords make. And I'm going to give you 8 things, and I want you to avoid these 8 things that I'm going to talk about here, guys. So, welcome to the channel and welcome, guys. I appreciate you being here. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please feel free to leave a comment. Feel free to drop a comment. Let me know your thoughts, guys, and we'll go from there. All right, so let's just jump into it, guys. First things first. If you want to be a landlord, right? There's some things that you got to be careful about and you got to watch out for. Some things that you got to be sure that you're avoiding in order to make landlording a good experience for you. Now, for a lot of people, landlording can be a problem. There can be issues. There can be things that deter you from wanting to be a landlord. And I understand it. So let's jump into these 8 things. And hopefully, these things that are things that you can avoid so you don't have a problem with landlording. So you don't be one of these disgruntled landlords out here that have rental property but really don't want the rental property. All right. So, first thing is this: the first mistake for new landlords to avoid is doing all the work yourself. Okay. Let me just say this to brand new landlords, people that want to become a landlord. You don't have to do it all on your own, right? You just ain't got to do it all by yourself. You need to make sure you have some help, right? One of the things that makes new landlords be disgruntled about being a landlord or owning rental property is the fact that they feel so overwhelmed, right? I hear this a lot when I talk to people who have 1 or 2 or 5 properties. They feel very overwhelmed. Listen, you don't have to do it all on your own. If you're married or have a partner, somebody that you can work with, a girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, somebody get some help. All right. Don't try to do every single thing on your own. Don't try to repair every single thing on your own. You don't have to do everything by yourself. Treat this like a business where you have good, competent people that are able to help you out as a landlord. All right. Form a team. Right. So you don't have to do everything. You want to have a handyman that you can rely on to caulk something or put in some windows or whatever. You want to have a plumber. You want to have an electrician. You want to have a realtor who's going to help you find other properties, right? You want to have things like an attorney and a CPA. You want to have a carpet person that, might lay some carpet or do some flooring for you. You want to have a group of people that you can rely on. Now, sometimes that takes a while to build up as a landlord, as a property owner. It takes some time to actually form and build your team, right? I remember the very first time I had a maintenance guy back in 2000, 22 years ago when I got started. I had a maintenance guy, and my maintenance guy stole like $500 worth of stuff from me, right? And I later found out that he was on drugs and all this stuff. So it takes a while. Now, the handyman that I use now, that I've been using for the last 20 years, I hooked up with him and he's been great for me for years and years and years. If I need something small done and I can't do it or I don't have the know how to do it, I call him and he's right there. But you want to form a team. Don't be at the point where you think you got to do all of this landlording and property management and all this stuff on your own, because it can and will become overwhelming. All right. So you want a lawn person. Now, listen, here's the kicker. Now, let me just tell you this. You're forming your team to help you manage your rental property as a landlord, you need to make sure that you don't have your lawn guy or your lawn person who trims bushes and cuts down trees. You don't want to necessarily have them be your electrician. You don't necessarily want your electrician to be your plumber. You don't necessarily want to have these mixed roles, because what I've learned over 22 years of managing real estate, rental property, is that sometimes when you have one person that does it all, you lose a little bit of quality, right? If you have a plumber that only does plumbing all day, every day, he's going to be a better plumber than the person that also does lawn care and puts in windows and does roofing and does gutters and does. So when people have all different special, now don't get me wrong, there's some guys and or people out there that can do everything, but for the most part, you're going to run into people that specialize, right? So I like to say that I want my plumber doing plumbing all day. I don't want my plumber to also be my carpet guy who lays carpet for me, right? My carpet guy, I want him to lay carpet. I don't want him to be my electrician. So keeping those duties separate sometimes ups the quality of the work that you'll get. But again, number one is this: don't think you have to do it all on your own. You have help, get help. Okay. Number two, I'm going to give you 8 of these. Is it 7 or 8? 7 or 8 of these. All right. Number two is this: new landlords typically have an issue overpaying contractors to do work on their property. You want to avoid overpaying for the work that you want. Now, you want quality work on your properties, right? You want quality repairs. You want quality maintenance, right? Um, but you don't want to overpay for that. And you don't want to pay too much and get overcharged, right? So you got to be very, very careful about who you decide is going to do the work on your property besides yourself. Obviously, you're going to do a few of the things yourself, right? But you got to find good people that do good work. I always suggest get referrals. Whenever you're trying to do repairs and maintenance on property, get referrals. People that have done work for friends or family that you know and that you feel comfortable about. Nowadays, obviously, you can also, check reviews online, go to Facebook pages or their business website or whatever. You can go and do a little research on people in order to figure out if they're good people and do the type of quality work that you want to have done on your properties. All right. Don't always go with the ginormous big contracting company that has the whole fleet of vans and they have the special uniforms, right? And the reason I say don't always go with them because they have lots and lots and lots of overhead. So what they charge you to change the P trap underneath your kitchen sink might be $500. Well, that's because they got to pay for that nice car and the uniforms. They have a lot of overhead. So you might be wise along the way as you own rental property to find people that don't have all that overhead, right? To find good, solid people that do the work and they're out there that aren't necessarily attached to some large company, right? It's going to take you a while, guys, to get to understand and know the people of your city or wherever you have your rental properties, the good companies or the good people or handy folks that do the work in the area of your properties. Now, listen, this is if you manage your own properties. Now, you might say, I want to get a property manager to do all of my managing of my property. And that's cool too. But you still don't want to get overcharged. You still don't want to, pay $10,000 for an electrical job that really should have cost you $5,000 had you did a little more research and, went with a more reputable company. So there's things to think about, right? So this is why I say you can do property management yourself, or at least hire a property manager to do the managing for you. But you still have to know what things cost. You still got to have a good idea. And I always recommend you wait before you get a property management company. You wait at least a year or two and manage your own properties as a new landlord. The reason, then you have a good idea what plumbing costs. You have a good idea what flooring costs. You have a good idea what a roof may cost or a new furnace. You understand what those things cost when you have to call around and get estimates on your own. So think about that, guys. You want to maybe consider managing your own property for a while before you get a property manager. Number three. Number three is the number three thing you want to avoid as a new landlord is you want to make sure you develop systems that you manage your properties by. Systems, your own unique systems in place in writing to help you make these things run smoothly. All right. Bad landlords, they typically just wing everything. Okay. Bad landlords just do things off the cuff. They have no systems. They have nothing in place, nothing in writing. They just kind of fly off the top of their head and they don't follow or have a process or a system to collect rent. They don't have a system for rent requirements. What do I require for everybody that wants to move in this property? They usually don't have a system for screening tenants or pre-screening tenants. They don't have a system for maintenance and repairs. They don't have a system for how to fill an empty vacancy, right? They don't have a system for anything. They don't have anything written down. They just kind of fly by however they want to do it. And that's how a lot of landlords do things. I'm going to tell you guys point blank, flat out, honestly. I know a lot of landlords, and a lot of them just fly by however they feel that day. They don't have anything written down. And what I'm telling you, if you want to be a successful landlord, right? You want to be happy about what you're doing and what you're helping people and all that. Develop systems that you can go through and do and have as a part of your business as a landlord, right? Now, number 4 is this. The one thing you want to avoid is you want to avoid not fully screening tenants. Listen, let me say this, guys. The most important thing that you will ever do as a landlord, this is number 1, could have been number 1 on the list. The most important thing you're going to do is you're going to screen tenants. Now, if you need to develop a system for screening tenants. That is the absolute number 1 most important thing you do, because I don't care how pretty you make the house look. I don't care how nice the carpet is. I don't care how nice the walls and the granite countertops and the new sink and the new bathtub. I don't care how nice any of that stuff is, right? I don't care how pretty it is on the outside. The trees, the bushes, and everything is beautiful, and the landscape. None of that matters if you have the wrong tenant in the property, because that tenant is going to tear the property up, or they're not going to pay on time. And next thing you know, you'll be out of business and wondering why. Well, it's because you did not learn how to screen tenants properly. You have to fully vet tenants. You have to pre-screen them. I say pre-screen them with questions. And let me give you the 3 questions I pre-screen every potential tenant with. The question number 1 is, what are you looking for? What type of property are you looking for? Because the answer to that question, what type of property are you looking for? That's going to tell me whether or not my property matches what they want. Because they may say, hey, I want a 4-bedroom home. I want a big basement, and I want to have large bedrooms. Well, guess what? I have a 3-bedroom home with no basement and small bedrooms, right? It doesn't match. I asked them one question, and it could knock them out the box, and they don't even want to look at the property. I don't want to show it because it doesn't match what they want. That's question 1. Question 2, you want to ask every potential tenant when you're pre-screening is, when do you plan to move? The answer to when do you plan to move can make a big difference. They may say, hey, I'm starting my search early. I'm really not looking to move for 3 months. Well, you're looking to rent the property in 3 weeks. Not a good fit. Or they may say, I got to move out today. I need a property this weekend. Well, guess what, guys? The property won't even be ready for 3 weeks. Not a good fit. Another question that can obviously knock them out the box and move them on to, because you don't want to waste people's time and you don't want to waste your time. And these pre-screening questions help you with that. The third pre-screening question I'd ask every potential tenant: why are you moving from your current place? Now, this is up for grabs. They're going to tell you a lot of things right here. It's a wide open-ended question, and people tell you a lot of things, but it gives you a good idea of whether or not this is a good fit for them. Right? So screening, you have to screen tenants thoroughly with background checks, criminal checks, credit checks, you name it. Call up previous landlords, plural. Don't just call their current landlord, because some current landlords just want these people to move out. So sometimes your current landlord gives you a good review. So don't just call up the current. I like to call the previous landlord before the current landlord and talk to them. And I also like to talk to them for extended period of time. Let me tell you why. A lot of people lie on their applications for a piece of property. They tell things that aren't quite true. And so if you ask for your previous 2 landlords and they give you 2, and you call up that previous landlord could be an aunt. That previous landlord could be their uncle. That previous landlord could be their mom or their best friend. And so here's how I figure that out. If I call up a landlord and I have a conversation, I'm a landlord and I call another landlord, guess what I do? I have conversations that only landlords can have, or only landlords want to know about. 99.9% of the time, if I'm talking to another landlord, that other landlord, I can tell by what I say to that other landlord. If I say something, for example, if I say something like, so how many properties do you own? That's a question that only another landlord would really feel comfortable and know how to answer real quickly. Because some of them will say, "Oh, I own about 10 other houses. Yeah, yeah, we're spread out. We got some over here and we got some," because landlords love to talk to other landlords. Okay. So, but if I ask that question and the response is, this is the only one, I don't have any more. And it's a real brief answer, that's a red flag to me because that tells me maybe this is not that person's previous landlord, because landlords love to talk to other landlords about real estate, about rental properties, about their property. Now, sometimes it could be their only property, and that's cool too. But I would ask a few other questions to see whether or not this person is actually a previous landlord or not. It's just a little thing, it's a little tip, and it's a little thing in terms of what you hear as a landlord, and you get used to this over time. But the whole point in this one is you gotta screen tenants thoroughly. Very important. Pay attention. Meet the whole family before agreeing to rent to a person, right? Don't just meet that person and they say, "Hey, I got 5 kids." Well, I want to meet all the kids that are going to be living in the property before you move into the property. That's very, very important. But that's just a little trick there. All right. Don't have put it, don't, and also about when you're screening tenants, don't have tenants put in their application and pay for an application before you allow them to view the property. Now, I'm hearing nowadays, guys, over the last year or two, that there's a lot of places out there, companies and property managers and property management companies that want you to put in an application before you even see the property physically. Now, here's old school. This is the old school me talking. I never want to have you put in an application if you have not seen the property, because this property may not be a good fit for you. I may say I got medium sized bedrooms in the property, and you may get to the property and see it and say, "Oh, these are really tiny bedrooms. My furniture won't even fit in these bedrooms." Don't, as a landlord, don't have people put in application and pay their fee for applications without first making sure and allowing them to take a look at the property. Now, there's going to be a lot of landlords that dispute what I just told you, right? They don't like that. They say, "Well, if they want to put it in, I have pictures online." Listen, pictures online do not tell a person what a property really looks like. You need to get there, see it, touch it, feel it, look around, look at the neighborhood. There's a lot of things that a tenant really needs to do before they can make a decision whether or not this is a good fit for them. And I like to, because I like to do business with a lot of integrity. And because of that, I would feel bad having you put in an application and taking your money and you haven't even seen the property. To me, that's just not good business. But there's a lot of property managers and properties that actually do that nowadays. And they have their reasons too. I'm not totally disputing that. I'm just saying it's not comfortable for me as an old school type of landlord. So it's very important. I just don't like doing that. The other thing I want to mention in this part in terms of screening tenants is make sure you follow the Fair Housing Act standards and laws and things that you cannot discriminate against. Be sure you're aware of those. Be sure you're also aware of the landlord tenant laws in your area where your properties are. Don't forget to know those as a potential landlord. Number five. Number five is, and the thing that you need to avoid as a new landlord is, don't treat this thing like a hobby. Treat it like a business. Don't treat it like a hobby. Treat it like a business. Because what happens with a hobby is that some days you like it, some days you don't feel like it, and say, and that's going to happen. That's normal. But try to treat it like a business 100% of the time. I know it's hard and it's difficult because there are things, the emotions and things that get involved. You get angry as a landlord because of that happens, but try your best to give tenants what they want in exchange for trying to get what you need. Tenants want nice place to live. They want a good property. They want quick maintenance. They want thorough maintenance. Give them what they want. And most times, those tenants, not all the time, but most times, those tenants are going to give you what you need. But you got to be treating this thing like a business. Keep proper accounting records. Make sure you have a CPA on your team that I talked about back in number one, right? Use good accountants. Keep good books. If you think of this as a hobby, guess what? You're going to end up treating it like a hobby, and you won't care about it as much, right? Just because it's a business Doesn't mean you don't treat tenants appropriately. Make sure you treat tenants kind of like you would treat customers, right? If you actually owned a business where you had customers, but treat it like a business, right? Don't be that one landlord that hates it and treats everybody wrong and mean in the meantime. Number 6, new landlords tend to underestimate the cost of everything, and they don't keep enough cash. You've got to keep enough money around you as a landlord. Whatever you think something's going to cost, plan on it costing more, right? Just plan on it costing a little bit more than you thought it was going to cost. You always have to have some emergency money as a landlord. Nothing gets there's two things that get new landlords out of the business really quick. One, bad tenants because they don't screen tenants right and they get upset, disgruntled, mad. But number 2 is they don't have enough money to handle maintenance issues that come up. I always say per unit, keep $5,000 to $10,000 per unit in case something crazy goes wrong. You must have cash and have money available for emergencies as a landlord. No cash on hand, that kills a lot of landlords' dreams and it puts a lot of landlords out of this business. Having money helps you also from being that desperate landlord, right? And we all know the desperate landlord. The desperate landlord is a landlord who um, they really need to get this unit, filled real quickly because they're running out of money. They got to pay the mortgage on the property. They have no money. They got to get it filled real quick. And when you are in a hurry, anytime in life, if you're in a hurry with money, you're likely to make a bad decision with money. But if you're not in a hurry and you can afford to be patient because you have $5,000 or $10,000 that can pay the mortgage or that can pay and can afford to have this thing empty for 3 or 4 months until you find the right tenant. If you're that landlord, you're going to usually make a better decision than you would if you're in a hurry to get somebody in the property, right? Because you're running out of money. So take your time, make sure you have cash available. Very, very important as a brand new landlord. All right. So I got 8 of these, by the way. I think I said 7 or 8 earlier. All right. So have cash. That gets a lot of landlords out of the business. All right. Number 7. Number 7 is this, guys. Number 7 that you got to avoid, thing you got to avoid is don't fix up the property with top of the line everything in the property, right? Now, this one depends obviously on where your property is located, obviously, right? Because if it's in a high-end district or high-end area of a city, you might want to put high-end stuff in there. But for most of us that rent properties, you don't necessarily have to have the top of the line light fixtures, the top of the line carpet and padding, the top of the line wood floors that are imported from Italy, right? You don't necessarily always have to have the top of the line appliances, stainless steel, the best brand. You can. I'm not saying that there's nothing wrong with it if you want to, but you can also have some really good quality used appliances or some really good middle of the road carpet that's still great quality, but it's not the carpet that's at the top of the line carpet. Really, really quality light fixtures, but not top of the line. The reason you don't necessarily always want to do that, unless again, if you're in a high end district somewhere or high end portion part of the city, but you want to make sure you control cost, you control expenses. Again, you are a business. As a business, you have to control expenses and control your cost. And the way you do that is in what the types of fixtures and things you put in the property. I'm not saying use bad quality or use ran down quality. Not at all. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying use good quality, but be conscious of not having to have the top quality of every single thing that you put in a property that you're trying to rent. Because what happens is you spend top dollar on every single appliance and fixture, and you get the wrong tenant in there, it's torn up anyway, right? You get the wrong tenant, the carpet is, they have a dog, the carpet is horrible. Now you just spent, $10,000 on carpet when you could have spent quality and got quality carpet for $7,000, but you want it top of the line. Well, you don't want to do that when you're renting out a property. Now, again, top of the line, okay. You're renting out a property at $10,000 a month or $15,000 a month. Yeah, you might want to put top of the line because you're going to get top of the line people in that's going to take care of that. But otherwise, for most of us, you don't have to have top of the line everything in your properties. That's a big mistake. Avoid it. Number eight. Number eight is this. Number eight is this. The one thing you want to avoid, and I'm just looking through some of these comments here real quick, guys, because I'm on several different places. So, number eight, expensive mistake that new landlords make is they become a landlord by default or by mistake, right? You don't really want to be a landlord. You don't really want to take care of properties, but you know what? Somebody left me a property and I want to rent it out. And so I don't really like being a landlord. I don't really want to be a landlord, but guess what? I'm kind of a landlord. I really don't see myself as a landlord. If you don't want to be a landlord, don't be a landlord. Don't do it. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. Sell the property. Sell the property to somebody in your family that wants to be a landlord. Here's why. Because people that don't want to be a landlord and are landlords by default, but they really don't like it. They don't want to. Those are what become slumlords. Okay. You didn't want to be a slumlord. You didn't start off as a slumlord. You don't like slumlords yourself, but guess what? You've become a slumlord because you don't like what you do. You don't want the property, right? You don't want to have a business as a landlord. And so ultimately you become that slumlord who never takes a look at the property, only collects the rent. There's trash everywhere. You drive by the property, there's trash everywhere. You can look at the property and tell that it's a slumlord that owns the property. If that's you, don't do it. Don't become a landlord. Sell your property to somebody that actually wants to be a landlord or wants to be an investor, right? We have too many slumlords out here, and we don't need more slumlords who don't want to be a landlord, right? Or who are disgruntled landlords who don't like it. Those are the people that don't screen tenants. They don't see this as a business. They don't organize. They have no processes. They're just collecting checks as a landlord. That is a huge problem. And you can drive by any place in most cities and you will find these landlords' properties. You don't even have to know who they are. You can look at their properties and tell they don't want to be a landlord. They don't like being a landlord because they're not taking care of the property. They're not taking care of the people. They're not being held responsible, and they're not holding their tenants responsible. You don't want to be that person, that landlord. Sell your property today if that's you. You can avoid that by simply selling your property, okay, to somebody that wants to own the property and wants to take care of the property. That is number 8, and that is super duper important. We've got enough slumlords out there, guys. We don't need any more. So listen, on this quick live, I just wanted to give you guys 8 things that you should avoid as a landlord. 8 expensive mistakes that new landlords typically make. Now, if you've been in the game for a long time, you know, you have a file cabinet full of things you do to avoid some of the things that I talked about on here. But what I do on this channel is I try to help people with their money, their personal finances, but I also try to help people with their real estate. I've been managing and owning my own properties for 22 years. And so I've got some expertise in that area, and I really enjoy sharing that information with you guys. Do me a favor, if you're watching this on YouTube and you got a comment, drop the comment below. And I always answer most comments I get. This channel is growing tremendously, by the way, guys. We started off a little over a year ago and with, no subscribers. Now we're almost at 3,000 or 2,800 subscribers or so. So I'm really pleased and I'm happy, and I appreciate you guys for not only sticking in and watching this video, but just supporting the channel and smashing the like button and subscribing. If you're not a subscriber, do me a favor and subscribe. Drop me a comment and I'll be sure to answer it. All right, guys, listen. I always end my broadcasts or my lives and my videos with this. The best person to take care of the old you is always going to be the young you. Guys, take care of yourself. Drop me a comment below, And until the next video, take care of other people. Don't forget that. Until the next video, guys, peace.